Alright. First off, I apologize if you hear someone outside. That's my brother. And I apologize for no videos the whole week because I've been pretty busy. So yeah, today, I know this is going to be a really cringy video, and Winslow's probably going to comment down in the comment section below, cringe, because that's what he does. But during these troubling times, I thought why not I read some books and give you guys some hockey knowledge. So we're going to start off with, what is the Stanley Cup? Now, there's photos in this book, and we're going to take a look at those first. So this is the Stanley Cup in 1902. Of course, the Stanley Cup's been around since 1894. This was the first Stanley Cup champions, the Montreal Victorias, in 1895. And now we skip over to 1940, where the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs play in a Stanley Cup game. And then we have Montreal goalie Jacques Plante blocks a puck in 1955. Of course, that was the year the Canadiens started dominating and winning 5 cups in a row, which we will review at some point. Maurice Richard of Montreal Canadiens holds the Stanley Cup in 1958. Maurice Richard, the Rocket Richard, of course, very famous player. We have Detroit Red Wings player Gordie Howe. Of course, he's Mr. Hockey. And then we have Bobby Orr scoring the Stanley Cup winning goal for the Boston Bruins in 1970. There's Bobby Orr right there. After that, we got Nell Stewart of the Montreal Maroons. Back in, I think it was like around the 1930s. No, it was in the 20s. The year the Rangers won their first Stanley Cup. Lauren Chabot, the goalie of the Rangers in the time, he got knocked out by Nell Stewart. And back then, it was like 1920s. They didn't have backup goalies, so there were goalies that were in the audience that would be asked to come down and play, which would be kind of weird. You're like sitting up there just trying to watch the Stanley Cup final, and then some goalie gets destroyed by Nell Stewart, and then he's like, "Hey, can you come and play for us?" I would be like, "No, I'm trying to watch the game." I forget it was Alex Connell, I'm pretty sure, from Ottawa. But the Maroons, oh, I'm an idiot. The Maroons coach Nell Stewart, he was actually the coach, not the player that ran into him. I can't think of the player who ran into Lauren Chabot, but Nell Stewart was the coach, and he said, "No, you can't use him. You're gonna have to go with someone else. Somebody from your team's gonna have to dress up." So Lester Patrick, who owned the league back in like the 1910s and stuff, was like, "I'm going in." So he went in, only let him 1 goal, and the Rangers won in overtime. So there you go. That's a story from the 1920s. That is Wayne Gretzky right there, greatest player in NHL history. And now we sim a lot of the ways to Washington Capitals captain Alexander Ovechkin. And then lastly here, I think this is the final picture, we have Mark Messier and other New York Rangers celebrating their Stanley Cup win in 1994. So now we're ready to get into the book of what is the Stanley Cup. So let's get into this. So we're going to read the first 3 chapters. So what is the Stanley Cup, the start of it all, and who's up for the challenge, 1893 to 1913. So it's going to be a pretty interesting book series here. What is the Stanley Cup? Each June, a series of hockey games end by crowning a championship team. The winner is the #1 team in the United States and Canada, and perhaps the world. The Stanley Cup is considered one of the most difficult sports championships to win. With 31 teams in the National Hockey League, 16 teams make the playoffs, and 3 best-of-round series before the finals. The prize is the Stanley Cup itself, the oldest and the most famous sports trophy in the world. Its origin goes back more than 100 years. Thousands of fans have lined up around the world just to get a glimpse of it. Picture right there. After the final buzzer of the final game, the captain of the winning team is presented with a cup. He lifts it overhead. He circles the ring. His teammates follow in a parade. In turn, they each take a lap at the prize. Some players kiss it, some cry, and some are surprised by its weight. It weighs 34.5 pounds. All these players know they hold history in their hands. The same presentation cup was top of a copy of the original trophy's bowl has been awarded for more than 50 years. Thousands of names are engraved on the bowl and on its bands. Names of winning teams from the 1890s and later, player, coach, and staff member names. Some teams are listed like the Vancouver Millionaires and the Montreal Wanderers that haven't been around for almost a century. Since 1995, the trophy is awarded from the globe for about 300 days a year. The rest of its time is displayed at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, Ontario. This is the Montreal Wanderers in 1905. They actually originally started off the league with three other teams. The Ottawa Senators, not the Senators you know today. They left and came back in 1992. Got the Canadiens, who you do know today. The Arenas, who later became the St. Pats. And then the Maple Leafs, as you know them today. The Wanderers, they played 5 games. I mean, actually, no. I think they played, like, maybe 7. They won 1 game, went, like, 1-5, and then their arena burned down. So, they just stopped playing. So, that was the Montreal Wanderers in 1905. Each championship team member spans a day with Stanley. It's been the hometowns in the United States and Canada, plus Russia, the Czech Republic, Sweden, Finland, and even the tropical Bahamas. It's been used for a bowl of popcorn, ice cream, cereal, and dog food. And 2 babies have been christened in it. That's interesting. It's a self-traditional legend, and it all started with one man, a British Lord, Frederick Arthur Stanley. Dogs eating out of the Stanley Cup. That's what I'm going to do if I get to the NHL. Make my dog eat out of that. Chapter 1. The start of it all. Ice hockey has roots in ball and stick games, dating back to the earliest civilizations. In colder climates, people played these sports on frozen ponds, eventually on skates. Canada, though, is considered one of the true birthplaces of hockey, combining these games and First Nations, Canadian indigenous people, traditions in Montreal. James Creighton, the father of organized hockey, introduced the first real rules holding an official ice hockey game indoors using a puck instead of a ball in 1875. Imagine ice hockey being used with a ball. During the sport's early years, players didn't wear helmets, padding, or goalie masks. They stayed on the ice every second of the game. There were no nets, post hammered onto the ice. In June of 1888, Lord Frederick Arthur Stanley and his family arrived in Canada. Queen Victoria of England named him the Governor General. At the time, Canada was a dominion or territory of England. The Governor General was appointed by the British Queen or British King or Queen to govern Canada. So that's players playing in a pond back in the 1800s. And then there is Lord Stanley and his wife Constance, who names their kid Constance. I don't know, but no offense to her, but. And now we have a tiny little section here called Canadian Geography. So, Canada is the second largest country in the world. Its 10 provinces function in a similar way as states in the United States. And its 3 territories have slightly different rules of government. Today, hockey is considered the national pastime of Canada. It's part of the nation's culture and identity. None of the Stanleys knew about hockey, but Lord Stanley and his 8 children loved sports. After seeing a game in Montreal, they were hooked. Two of the Stanley, I don't know what happened there. 2 of the Stanley brothers formed a team of 7 players. The standard number backed them. They traveled with their father's private train to play other teams throughout the country. People took notice. This was the important Governor General family. Meanwhile, the game became popular in the northern U.S. cities too. Meanwhile, more leagues formed. In the time, Lord Stanley's children wanted to hold a championship. One winner from among the all the different leagues. Lord Stanley donated a silver punch bowl to use for the trophy. So, the Stanley Cup really isn't a cup at all. It's a bowl. Big brain. So next up, we got Trophy Trivia. That's a pretty interesting little page there. Since 1958, the Stanley Cup has had 5 bands below its bowl, filled with champions' names. Every 12 or 13 years, the oldest band is taken off and displayed in the Hockey Hall of Fame, while the other 4 are moved up, and a blank band is added for the new winners. Through the years, there have been many typos. The Bruins won the title in 1972. Boston was spelled BQSTQN. I can't talk. 1980, 1981, New York Islanders name was written with the Landers, so no S. The Leafs Hall of Fame goaltender Jacques Plante. The Leafs. Plante did not play for the Leafs, I don't think. Actually, no, he did. With Bernie Parent. The Leafs in Toronto Maple Leafs was spelled Leaes, no F. In 1963, Hall of Fame goaltender Jacques Plante won the Stanley Cup 6 times between 1953 and 1960. His name is spelled 5 different ways, and there have been other problems. In 1984, the Oilers owner included his dad's name on the list. It was later crossed out. So there you go. You got a little picture of Boston, which says BQSTON. That's not what it says. According to Lord Stanley's wishes, the trophy was a challenge cup. What did that mean? Teams had 2 ways to win the trophy. One way was simple enough. The team would just be the same league as the last champions to finish first in the standings, beating out the reigning cup holder. Then there was a challenge to get the cup. Teams were from different leagues had to challenge in the championship team to a game or a series of games. And of course, the challenger had to win. Challenges could have seen any time before, during, or after the hockey season. And there were no limits on how many could be issued. Sometimes there'd be 5 Stanley Cup contests in one season. Sounds confusing? Well, things were about to get a lot more complicated. Chapter 2. Who's up for the challenge? 1893 to 1913. Lord Stanley named a committee with members called trustees. It would to be in charge of the Stanley Cup. In 1983, the first year of the Cup, the trophy went to the best team and had the league, Montreal Hockey Club. So the Montreal Hockey Club with the first Stanley Cup in 1893. Interesting looking logo there. Looks like a bunny or something. The team had the first true hockey scorer, Haviland Ruth, who scored 12 goals in 7 games. The trophy was engraved Montreal AAA, but Ruth and his teammates turned it down. Their league name was the Montreal Amateur Athletic Association. It was not their team name. To the players, it didn't make any sense. Plus, they hadn't invited the official presentation and didn't even know really what the trophy was about. So that's weird. You're playing for a trophy that you don't even know what it is. It's like baseball playing for the World Series, but is it really the world? It's just North America. Like, that makes no sense. It seemed the next year, the club came on top again. This time, the team had the trophy engraved, saying simply Montreal 1894. It seemed assured that the Montreal Hockey Club will win again, but they were out of place running after dropping in second place in their league. Instead, the number 1 team called the Montreal Victorias won the title, despite not even playing one challenge game. Weird rules, right? In fact, the trustees seemed to make up the rules as they went. Sometimes the championship was decided by just 1 game, sometimes it was with 3, and sometimes the series was 2 games with the scores combined, which means, let's say Detroit scores like 20 goals in 2 games, and then Colorado only scores like 15. So 20 to 15 is the amount of goals that were scored in each game. So, I mean, the amount that they were scored in 2 games. So whoever the most tallied up wins. I'm sure you get that. But this is the Montreal Victorias in 1895. So there you go. Adding to the confusion, the Montreal Victorias shared a name with the Winnipeg Victorias, which is also confusing. Before the teams faced up against each other in the Cup in 1896, fans gathered at the Winnipeg train station to see their Vics off. At the Valentine's Day game, the crowd sang for hours. Hobble, gobble, razzle, dazzle, sis, boom, bah. Victorias, rah, rah, rah. What? Imagine the Stanley Cup final on Valentine's Day, which would mean the season would have to start in August, or not even August, July, which I actually would not mind at all. I would be yeah, I would love that to start in August. Summer hockey, that would be awesome. And it looks like, even though I'm confident they're going to cancel the season, that would be awesome to see hockey during the summer. I could watch every game and not have to worry about school, even though school's my main priority right now. That's why I haven't really recording. Online school's a jerk. This was in days before telephones, radio, and TV. Fans were getting their news by telegraph. Back in Winnipeg, hundreds gathered outside hotels to hear play-by-play bulletins read out loud. Then came the news. Winnipeg had won 2-0. An even larger crowd gathered at the station when the team returned. Cheering loudly, they followed the players into town. From then on, having a Stanley Cup parade became a tradition. Just 10 months later, Montreal won back the cup. And by 1903, there would be a new team to beat, the Ottawa Hockey Club. The team's official name was the Senators, the same name as the modern-day one. But everybody called them the Silver Seven, the Ottawa Silver Seven. It's not too bad. Maybe we'll make a custom team for that. The 7 players had all received a bonus for the first championship, a nugget of silver, and a nickname stub. The ready and steady Silver 7 held on their tide through 10 challenges. Their number 1 player was one-eyed Frank McGee. After a hit in a hockey game years earlier, he lost the sight in his left eye. Even half-blind, McGee kept scoring and never said no to a fight. Wow. One-eyed dude fighting. It's like the governor from The Walking Dead. He's like kicking the crap out of everyone. Other teams' players fought hard, some viciously, and they took the Ottawa hook, wrapping their hockey sticks around an opponent's neck. After a challenge game against the Toronto Marlboros, one newspaper headline read, "Marlboros beaten by Ottawa, but not at hockey." Okay. But the Silver Seven's most famous match came in 1905. When a little-known team from the remote north issued a challenge. The Dawson City had called themselves the Nuggets. They came from the Gold Rush territory, the Yukon. Now, the Yukon's pretty interesting, as there was a gold rush there, so a lot of pictures in there. A gold rush is a rush for gold, where prospectors hurry across great distances to see their fortunes. In 1896, 3 friends discovered a gold nugget in the creek of Klondike River. Klondike's like an ice cream. In days, the arena swarmed by newcomers. But the real rush came in July 1897, when a ship carrying miners and more than a ton of gold docked in Seattle. Immediately, tens of thousands of people traveled from all around the world to the Yukon, a region of Canada bordering Alaska and the Arctic Ocean along the dangerous route. People were murdered, fell ill, starved to death. Jesus, people getting murdered on the way to a mine, and were killed in avalanches. Less than 1/3 even made it to Dawson City, the mining base. Only about 4,000 people found any gold at all. When the news came of another gold rush, most of them moved on. So people get killed there, and then the people who survived to get there, it's like they get one in Yukon, and there's like another one, and none of it. Oh my God, kidding me? I gotta go across the country. The once bustling Dawson City was in the middle of nowhere. Its team played hockey mostly to pass the time. Their goalie was only 17, to this day the youngest player to compete for the cup. The question was, could the Nuggets even arrive at the matches on time? To reach Ottawa, they had to travel almost 4,000 miles. Jesus. The team went by dog sled and bicycle, foot and stagecoach, boat and train. They faced snow and bitter cold. They finally, after a long mud trip, they arrived at Ottawa just 2 days before the game. The players barely had time to sleep, much less practice. They lost 9-2, but Dawson City had held one-eyed McGee to 1 goal. Wow, it's like you literally come up to like go play a game, and like it's like you live in Seattle and then the game's in like Pennsylvania. It's like the Seattle Kraken are playing the Flyers, and then you come over there and you like barely have any time to practice, and you're like and then you get destroyed 9-2. Month-long trip, you get destroyed. Month-long trip back. That really sucks. What is the big deal about McGee? The Nuggets players asked around town. In the next game, the Nuggets found out. McGee scored 14 times in a 23-2 rout. A scoring record to this day. Imagine scoring 14 goals. And that is it for the first 3 chapters. So if you guys want to see me, my bookmark for this is Wayne Simmons of a Los Angeles Kings card. So if you guys want to see me read more of this, drop a like below. I have tons of hockey books that we can read. These are just a few. I have one in my backpack that I read at school, and I have about 5 back in my mom's house. So it's going to be a lot of reading, and I'm going to get you guys a lot of knowledge. And it's going to help me read articles much better while I'm doing news time videos, which will be very common once next season starts. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This channel is actually becoming really popular now. 88 subs. That's insane. Thank you guys for watching. You guys enjoy. Do sub. We're 12 subs away from 100, our goal, and we actually might beat it by 1 month. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully.